American Top 40.
In Hollywood, this is Casey Kasem. And now, the hit by the singer and songwriter who started out on a career as a school teacher, but soon had that notion knocked out of him by one of his pupils. I'm talking about Jim Croce. A few years ago, right after getting out of the Army, he got a teaching job in special education in a ghetto school in Chester, Pennsylvania. And naturally, as the newest member of the faculty, he got stuck with the class that none of the other teachers wanted. The class made up of the kids who presented a discipline problem. Don't worry about it, the principal told them. All you have to do is keep them in their seats and show them who's boss. You'll do okay. And Croce did okay for a couple of months, keeping the students in their seats most of the time and getting used to breaking up fights between them. In fact, he did pretty good for a guy who stands only 5'7" and weighs about 140 pounds. And then one day, one of the students challenged his authority. A girl who weighed about 260 pounds. In Jim's words, she was a very heavy-duty mama, and she just laid that big arm across the side of my head, and I just went about 8 or 10 feet. That's when he changed his mind about teaching and got into the music business. Doing pretty good, too. His first hit moves into the top 10 this week to number 9. You don't mess around with Jim. Oh, yeah? Tell that to heavy-duty mama. First week in the top 10 for Jim Croce at number 9 with You Don't Mess Around with Jim.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Now the second top 40 hit by the only man on the charts licensed to drive big trucks and Caterpillar tractors, handle a jackhammer, and string telephone line. A Los Angeles Times reporter, Chuck Tegsey, said, "He looks like a gruff Italian laborer because he is a gruff Italian laborer." His name is Jim Croce, and until his first hit record 3 months ago, he worked as a laborer to support his family. Before that, he was a school teacher in Chester, Pennsylvania. For a while, until he decided he liked manual labor better. Croce says he didn't begin to learn until he left college and started listening to the people. And whatever there was to learn from listening to the people, he must have learned it pretty well. Because now the people are listening to Jim Croce. Here's his second hit at number 30 this week, Operator. In his second week in American Top 40, his second hit song, Jim Croce, Operator.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Well, at number 7 among the top artists of the 70s is a man who wasn't with us long enough. Barely a year after his first hit, he was killed in a plane crash in Louisiana. That was just last September, less than 15 months after this gem appeared on the charts. Here's Jim Croce. You Don't Mess Around with Jim, the immortal Jim Croce. At number 7 in our special survey.
American Top 40.
At number 37 of the chart this week, I have a hit by the late singer-songwriter who's taken what's always been a strange chart phenomenon and made it even stranger. Several top artists have continued hitting the charts after they died. It was that way with Otis Redding and with Sam Cooke. Jim Reeves died 10 years ago, and he's still hitting the country charts. Then Janis Joplin gave the pop record books a more bizarre twist by having more hits as a solo artist after her death than before. And that's what Jim Croce did with his current hit. Before that plane crash last September, he'd had 4 hit records. Since then, he's had 5. The 5th is still in the 40. This week at number 37. At number 37 on the countdown, Jim Croce with Workin' at the Car Wash Blues. 36 hits to number 1 and counting down.
The hits from coast to coast.
The next song is by an artist who was killed in a plane crash in September 1973. He's Jim Croce. He had 4 hits by then, with the first one hitting the charts only 15 months before. His popularity had such momentum that 5 of his singles released within a year after his death all became big hits. This was one of them. It peaked at number 9 last spring and comes in at number 86 for 1974. Here's the late Jim Croce. You're hearing the biggest hits of 1974, and at number 86, Jim Croce's I'll Have to Say I Love You in a Song.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
It's time now for the song that was featured in a TV movie that was shown last September. Maybe you saw it. The film was called She Lives, and it starred Desi Arnaz Jr. and Season Hubley. It was a drama about a young couple beset by tragedy when the girl develops an incurable disease. Well, if you saw it, You'll recall that there was a song heard throughout the film, which in the storyline was the couple's favorite record. And when the girl found out she had maybe 8 or 10 months to live, the lyrics of the song took on a special meaning for her. Lyrics that said, "If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing I'd try to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you." 8 days after the picture was shown on TV, the singer whose recording of it was played in the film died in a plane crash. And ironically, his lyrics took on the same sort of special meaning for those who remember him. This week it's number 13. Only the second week on American Top 40, it's already number 13. Jim Croce, Time in a Bottle.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
This is Casey on American Top 40. And the record that tops the chart this week is a posthumous number 1 song. You know, it's not unusual for an artist to appear on the chart with a record released after his death. But it is unusual for one of those records to make it to number 1. In the rock era, it's only happened 3 times. Each of the 3 artists died at the height of his career. Pop and soul singer Otis Redding died late in 1967, and then a few weeks later, a record released after his death made number 1. That was Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. And a few weeks after superstar Janis Joplin died late in 1970, her posthumous release of Me and Bobby McGee hit number 1. Well, a few months ago, singer Jim Croce topped the chart with Bad Bad Leroy Brown, and undoubtedly was on his way to having many more big hits. But as you know, he died in a plane crash just last September. Last week, a record by Jim Croce moved into the number 1 spot. A song from his first chart LP recorded about 2 years ago, but just recently released as a single. A song that reflects his philosophy of life, and one that's obviously touched many, many people's hearts. This week it holds at the number 1 position. Here's Jim Croce's Time in a Bottle. Jim Croce, second week at number 1 with Time in a Bottle.